Kenny's in trouble. He's going to run. He's going to get the first down.
Don't sleep on those legs. Oh, he faked the slide. Sauce time. The Pitt Panthers have pulled a stunning upset over the West Virginia Mountaineers.
And Johnny Majors gets a ride across the field.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Simplify. I'm your host, Zach Kaminsky. With me as always is Kent Vanderwood. How are we doing tonight, Kent?
Good. How we doing, Zach?
I'm good. We actually just finished recording a great interview for you guys. But first, it is, as of recording, the eve before the NFL draft. So we're going to go over, the guys from Pitt who are entering the draft this year. Just a quick list to remind everybody of who attended Pitt's Pro Day. We had, obviously, Kenny Pickett, Damari Mathis, Lucas Krull, Cal Adamitis, Chase Pine, Phil Campbell, Johnny Patrician, Taysir Mack, and Melquise Stovall. I'm not going to lie, it's not a great graduating class as far as NFL talent. I mean, a lot of these guys are really productive on the team, but also a lot of people are coming back for another year. But
yeah, a lot of the guys that show that they can be real NFL talents on our team this past year are just coming back. So I think that we don't see nearly as many like mid-round draft picks as we normally have coming out of Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
But we do obviously have a couple stars and then some guys that might get drafted late. So we'll dive in.
All right, so let's start with our hero, Kenny Pickett. As far as like football scouts go, and I've been consuming a lot of media around it. A lot of people are convinced that it's Malik Willis for quarterback one. Some people even say it's Desmond Ridder. These people are insane and should not be trusted. It's Kenny Pickett.
It's insane. It changes every week or two, but that has become the consensus number one. Kenny has dropped to number two, but some people still have him as one. But overall, it seems like most people have Malik going first in terms of the quarterbacks tomorrow.
Let's talk where could Kenny go? I think the Panthers are the first quarterback needy team on the board, and then maybe it's Atlanta and Seattle at 8 and 9. I really think that a great landing spot for Kenny would be at either 16 or 19 to New Orleans, or honestly, I really wouldn't mind if he went to the Steelers at 20. I think that would just be a great story.
I think it would be a good story to him and the Steelers as well. Obviously, he knows Tomlin. He's been talking to the Steelers quite a bit, working out at the same facility for 5 years now, so practicing there. But ideally, I would like to see him go before that. I think the Saints would be a good fit for him. I think another possible spot that's in that top 20, theoretically, you could say Washington takes somebody to sit behind Wentz, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Washington doesn't always make the smartest decisions, so you never know.
I mean, personally, I would hate to see him go there because I don't want to see his career ruined by by the grass like RG3.
Yeah. The most logical landing spot to me would be the Panthers. I think he has some weapons around him there, but he doesn't necessarily have a complete team at all. The Panthers don't have a second or third round pick, so I could really see them trading back, maybe into the teens and then taking him instead of taking him right at 6. I think that a lot of people touch on the fact that Matt Rule recruited him at Temple and is now the head coach there. I think not enough people know or really even talk about that the Panthers owner is also a Pitt alum, which is interesting. And obviously the Pitt Panthers won the ACC championship in the Panthers Stadium this year, and the Panthers owner was in attendance. So something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd like to see him go to New Orleans. I think that's just the best situation. You're playing with Alvin Kamara as a crutch. I can't think that's a very bad thing to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, either way, whether you ended up in Carolina or in New Orleans, you have an elite running back. Kamara stays typically healthier than McCaffrey. We'll see if McCaffrey can stay on the field this year. I think either way, with either one of those two teams, you have a good running back to lean on. I think either place, you also have some veteran quarterbacks that he doesn't have to start right away.
Mm-hmm. I think he would start faster in Carolina just because Sam Darnold stinks.
I think so too. I think there's a lot of pressure on that coaching staff to win and win fast, and they'd be more pressured to pull the trigger to get him in there earlier. New Orleans, you have a new coach coming in, so interesting dynamic there. Nobody really knows how that's going to play out. A lot of people are predicting that they are not going to take a quarterback. I heard somebody today point out that New Orleans has beaten Tom Brady and the Bucs, I think 4 straight times in the regular season. So I think they feel confident that they can win that division with Jameis if Jameis can stay healthy with the team that they have. So I don't think they necessarily want to take a quarterback this year.
All right, yeah. I mean, beyond the Steelers at 20, no one else really needs a quarterback. Maybe Detroit at 32, but
Sorry, go ahead.
I think maybe the only team that needs a quarterback in the first round after Pittsburgh is Detroit at 32, right?
Theoretically, yes. I think that's definitely a spot that Detroit might be looking at a quarterback.
But they can also take him at 34 because Jacksonville's not going to take a quarterback.
That's true. I think. I mean, realistically, you'd like to think Kenny's gone by then, but if he's still there, like, it would make sense. Yeah. I could also see there's a sleeper team that some people have mentioned, but it's not really talked about a lot. The Titans.
I wanted to say that, but I don't.
The Titans could be. You never know with some of these teams sometimes. Like, there's always that surprise team that ends up taking a quarterback in the first round and just throws everything off. I think the Titans could be that team this year. Ryan Tannehill, I think he's 35 now, or going to be this year, 34.
It's his age 34 season, and they can cut him after this year, but he's
I think he's due a ton of money next year. So if he
is. If they cut him before next year, they owe him $18 million.
Yeah, and then if they've just been quiet, they could trade up into the teens and take Kenny or Malik if they're available.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully he goes before Malik Willis, because I think that Malik Willis is kind of a Mickey Mouse quarterback, and people just want to find the next Lamar Jackson.
Between Malik playing at Liberty and just if you watch his tape, like, squirrely is a good word. I think he's a little all over the place. I don't think he has the best mechanics, but then again, you never know. So I think another team that has multiple picks in the first round that nobody's really talking about taking a quarterback. Houston has 2 picks in the top 13.
I think they're pretty committed to what's his name?
Davis Mills. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I think they like Davis Mills. I think that for what was he, a 4th round pick?
Third.
I think he third. He's shown promise. I think that they like him, but I wouldn't rule it out necessarily. I don't know how much they love him, and if they really think that they could find a star in one of these quarterbacks and they want him. Not at 3, but maybe at 13, or if they trade back a little bit farther, if they say trade that 13th pick to somebody. Although if somebody's trading up to 13, they're probably taking a quarterback. When the Eagles had 3 first-round picks, I could have seen that too. Hurts led them to the playoffs last year, and I don't think they're ready to necessarily make that move, but I don't necessarily think that they think that Jalen is the long-term answer. They have multiple first-round picks this year and next year. Obviously traded one away this year for an additional next year. They did that pick swap with the Saints. But I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. Like I said, always that surprise team that takes a quarterback. The year that Lamar got drafted by the Ravens, nobody saw it coming. Obviously, it wasn't until the end of the round and they traded back in. But there's always a team that does it. Maybe not always, but a lot of times there's some team that just comes out of left field to take a quarterback. The Packers did it with Jordan Love, but obviously that's a unique situation.
Yeah, that's
Worst
true.
draft pick maybe ever. Maybe, I mean, depending on how you look at it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has won 2 MVPs since, so maybe a little fire under him. But he's also had all the drama. So
Yeah. Okay, I found it. So it's a chart. It's charting the top 5 quarterbacks in the draft. Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and Matt Corral. It's charting their EPA per pass on the x-axis, which is, for those who don't know, expected points added, which is essentially grading how many points each play is expected to add. Like a long touchdown is like an EPA of like 6 or something, right? And then CPOE, which is completion percentage over expected, which is saying, if you make a difficult throw, you're expecting completion percentage is lower. So if you complete the throw, it raises your completion percentage over expected. Kenny Pickett is the leader in both categories, and by far and away the leader in CPOE. Desmond Ridder and Matt Corral are at 0 in that category. Malik Willis and Sam Howell are around 2.5, and Kenny is all the way up here, 7 CPOE. Kenny's also in the range of 0.25 EPA per pass. No one else in the class is above 0.2. However, talking about QBs in the top 5 of their class with worse CPOE than Desmond Ridder and therefore Matt Corral in their final college season, tell me about if any of these guys have good NFL careers. Guys like Christian Hackenberg, Davis Webb, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love. Well, I guess Jordan Love, the jury is out. The only one that really has been proven as an NFL starter is Justin Herbert. That's an exception to the rule. And then guys with similar CPOEs, Desmond Ridder, are Deshaun Kaiser, Josh Rosen, and Drew Lock. So if you have him as your number 1 quarterback, yes, I would rethink that. All right, that's a lot of Kenny talk. Let's try and get through the rest of these guys before we get to the interview.
Yeah.
Damari Mathis. I think he's the only other player on who's being sent to the NFL that really is a guarantee to get drafted. Solid day 2, day 3 corner, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely the only other guarantee. I think he is going to be a surprise to the fans of whatever team he goes to, unless it's the Steelers, because obviously. But I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets taken a little bit later than maybe he would if he was on a different team. But I think he'll have a successful career. So,
all right, yeah. And then out of this group, I would say the borderline guy for getting drafted is honestly Cal Adamitis. He's ranked number 1 for long snappers, right?
Yeah, top ranked at his position. So could see him go late. Obviously, he's a long snapper, but I mean, regardless, he's going to end up on a roster.
Right, yeah, I think he's guaranteed a roster spot as a long snapper. And then you have guys like Lucas Krull, Phil Campbell, and Johnny Patrician, and maybe even Taysir Mack, who could get camp invites. But beyond that, there's not a lot left to talk about with this class. It's really just a matter of Kenny, Damari, and Cal, and then whoever else gets a camp invite after the draft is, it's sprinkles on the ice cream.
Yeah, for sure. I think Krull and Patrician and Campbell, I think all of them will be interesting to keep an eye on too. I think they have obviously some potential, so we'll see. There's always some undrafted gems that find their way onto an NFL roster and make an impact. So,
Robbie Anderson of the Panthers is one of them. former Jet. All right. I think that's all for the NFL draft. So without further ado, let's get into our interview with Tony Scott-Naji.
You should be sitting up straight, but without stiffness, and should feel comfortable. Don't ever let yourself become tense. Now let's type some more on the home row key. Ready?
All right, everybody, I'd like to welcome onto the show Tony Scott-Naji, former Pitt walk-on safety and former roommate of me, your host. So, Tony, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Zach?
I'm all right. I'm so glad you make it on. Just to give you guys a little context, me and Tony both played Pitt club football. Tony ends up walking on in the fall of 2019. That's the first season with Mark Whipple. He stays with the team through 2020 and 2021 and just graduated. So today we're going to have him on to talk about what's it like to be a walk-on, what was his experience there, and talk about the 2021 season from the eyes of a player.
All right. Yeah, I'm ready to get started. What's up, man?
All right. So first question I got to ask you, what was it like to walk on to a college program and going from, high school to club to, being varsity D1?
It was definitely challenging. I mean, you know how hard I worked and how much effort I put into it. It was a challenging thing, man. Definitely something that you got to really want. It's not something you can half-ass. Like, I think I went back when I was on the team, and I was talking to some of the younger guys and explaining to them after one of our 6 a.m. workouts, like, yo, you gotta cherish every one of these moments because there are guys out there like me at one point, that want to be in the same exact spot that you're in right now, begging and pleading, grinding day and night trying to get to the spot that you're at. So I went back when I had to give this talk to the guys. I went back and looked at how many emails I sent from January of 2019 to April of 2019. From January to April of 2019, I sent 71 emails to different staff and coaches on the football team. I was in contact with Tim Salem. I was in contact with Corey Sanders, Archie Collins. There are a couple of women who work in the facilities who I also got in contact with. I was in contact with several different GAs, Graham Wilbert, anybody you can think of. I swear, if you go and look up Pitt football roster and scroll down to the bottom where all the staff and stuff is, I emailed everybody on that list at least once.
Actually, I have a question about, so obviously you played club with me, and we did have some sort of limited film from that.
Yeah.
What was more useful? Was it high school tape or club tape in getting the attention of the coaches?
I feel like, honestly, I think I have good film, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the coaches really didn't pay attention that much to my film, if I'm being honest. I think they looked at it to see if I had the athletic ability to be around. Like, they looked to see if I could fit the bill. Mm-hmm. But I think all of the evaluation in terms of like my speed, my physicality, all that stuff, I think they really waited until I got into camp to like evaluate that stuff. I think for the most part, the film that I sent in, like I said, they looked to see if I fit the bill. But once I got there, I think it was August 7th of 2019, they asked me to come to the facilities. Me and Hudson Primus, we got invited to the facilities, and they had us work out. They recorded our workout, and they showed it to the coaches later. Just sent through a bunch of DB drills and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But they I think like more so for their evaluation right there, like they took more of that stuff more so than what they looked at our actual film, I think, honestly. Like I remember talking to Coach Sanders when I first joined the team, and he talked about, my workout tape. and he was talking about my breaks and what I did well, what I didn't do so well. More so than going over any game film that I had emailed them throughout my process of trying to get onto the team. So yeah, I feel like as a guy that was already in college trying to walk on, yeah, that it's more so about what they can see in person. But if you're a guy coming out of high school and you're trying to get a walk on spot, or you're on your first semester on campus or something like that, definitely probably use your high school film. Just because I feel like no disrespect to club, I feel like high school was a little bit more organized.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably you playing at a Philly charter school, the competition was probably better.
Oh yeah, no, high school football for me was definitely more competitive and a lot harder than club was. I feel like club football was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like it wasn't really hard, And the football that I'm used to is like, all right, when you go out there and you play dudes, like the shit's gonna be hard,
Yeah, I get that.
All right, sorry. It's a little weird just jumping in the middle. So, the last thing I was say. So, Tony, what was your favorite moment as a Pitt player?
Favorite moment?
Yeah,
my personal favorite moment, definitely be 2020 Virginia Tech. It was home at Hines. First game that I ever traveled for. First ACC game that I ever got into. I got in on special teams, and at the end of the game, I got a couple plays in on defense. So that's definitely my personal favorite memory. Just I don't know, it kind of showed that my hard work had paid off. I had accomplished the dream that a lot of people had doubted me for, and told me that I would never accomplish. So that's definitely probably my personal favorite. Team favorite. I don't know. I was thinking maybe UNC in the rain or UCF back in 2019. ACC championship is definitely up there, but in terms of like nail biters, favorite games, one of those games where you're on the edge of your seat the entire time, I'm gonna go UNC last year in the rain or UCF 2019.
I mean, I remember both of those games like the back of my hand. I mean, fucking that UNC game, that was a work night for me, and I remember I'm sitting up in my bed fighting off sleep until he throws that dart in the rain. I could finally. Well, actually, I couldn't even go to sleep after that. I just stay up until we picked off Sam Howell at the last second.
Yeah, that game was crazy. That was definitely one of my favorite ones from last year. The Virginia Tech game that Tony said, I mean, I think that's awesome. That was your first game that you got to really get playing time in. Great answers.
Might I add some great Instagram photos from that game?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
on my Instagram about twice a year, and I definitely had to post that moment.
You can't. I mean, like, I like as your former club teammate and like living with you for 3 years, I was like so proud when that happened. Like, I remember you getting home and be like, yo, I got into the game. I was like, I might have been fucking like drunk at that point, but I was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah, definitely recall that. Definitely turned up that night for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, so now that we know what your experience is like, I want to talk about the championship run, just like from start to finish. So, at the end of 2020, the COVID year, we're 6-6, and we lose a couple games by 1 point. We lose to North Carolina State and Boston College back-to-back weeks by both 1 point.
Yeah.
Was there something in, say, the spring practice afterwards or the summer where not only you but maybe even the team felt that something might be different? Is there anything that like changed between those 2 years?
I think the biggest thing that changed, honestly, was in the younger guys. You got at this point, you had a lot of young guys who are making really big impacts. You got B Hill, who you know is going to be a starting safety. He's a redshirt sophomore. You got Jordan Addison coming into his second year. So he's going to be a big star. Like you got a lot of young guys who are taking major roles, and they took those roles very seriously. Like those are the guys that a lot of guys looked up to, even with them being young guys. They tried to set the example. And I feel like before that we had a lot of older guys who had been there for a while, who had played for a while, great leaders, but we didn't have the leadership run throughout the whole team from top to bottom. It was kind of just the older guy leading the sheep.
So you're saying it was like the younger guys realizing they had to take leadership roles because they were getting spotted in these starting spots.
Yeah, exactly. And with the younger guys, with those younger guys having to take that responsibility, the leadership was more spread throughout the entire team. So now you got older guys who are they're getting on you because they're older guys, younger guys, but you also got guys who are in your class who have to take these leadership roles, and it's it's a testosterone thing. Like responding to an authority figure who's older than you, sometimes it's like whatever. But when you're talking to a guy who you got recruited with, a guy who you took multiple visits with, a guy who probably is your roommate, like when this guy is getting on you and telling you like, yo, I need to go harder, I need this and that, you're a lot more willing to do it. So I think the biggest difference is that our leadership was so spread throughout the team, so spread throughout age groups. You had freshmen that were leading the freshmen. You had sophomores that were leading the sophomores, and like I said, just top to bottom leadership. I feel like that was our biggest jump. We just had guys as a unit, as a program that were just diving in, and it was like, bro, like you either gonna hop in with me or you can get the fuck off the ship. And I feel like that was like our biggest driving point in going into last year's season, is just that like everybody was locked in. Every practice, I felt like every practice last year, people were fighting for their jobs. Like it was never a question really like who was going to start and stuff like that on certain positions, but every single practice, it was like we were practicing camp. When it was like middle of camp in week 8, we were going full speed. Guys are diving for balls. We're staying safe and stuff like that because we want to stay healthy. But the competitive nature of practice was there throughout the entire year.
Wow. Would you say that was a result of different coaching, or would you say that the players really took that upon themselves to change?
Yeah, I think it's really the players. Like I said, with the leadership being older and younger guys, everybody buying in and not just a bunch of older guys trying to pull everybody with them. Since it was everybody pulling in the same direction, I feel like that just made everything more competitive. That made us more locked in. Communication was better. Like I feel like that as a whole just made the team go so much further. Even though, you got analysts and stuff like that talking about, we lost major pieces and, the younger guys aren't ready. The guys really stepped in and they said, forget all the outside noise. It's all about us. This is about Pitt football and bringing back a championship to the city that we're representing.
I actually got another question between what was, and as you're a defensive player, so maybe your reaction was different, but what was like the team's reaction when everyone found out that Kenny was coming back for that extra year, that super senior year?
I feel like everybody was like overall like just excited because like we all believed in Kenny. We know he had some struggles and stuff like that, but I'm talking about like in practice and stuff like that. Kenny had the moments that Kenny showed all last year, and has him as a top draft pick. He had been doing, at least since I've been on the football team, he had been doing my entire time I had been there. It's just it took some time for it to click for him in the game. But as you guys saw, once it clicked, he blew the house apart. Like he was out picking teams apart, throwing for 400 yards multiple weeks throughout the season, like it with ease. So, like I said, yeah, just mostly excitement because we knew the type of guy that we were going to get. And another thing that, not a lot of people know is the type of competitor that Kenny is. Like, there are not many people who, as a defender, there aren't many guys on offense who can like be like put me in my place and shit, like, nah, I gotta lock in. But when you fuck up and Kenny comes over and is like, bro, I need you to lock the fuck in. Like, I need you to give me the look that I'm trying to look for, or something like that. Like, it was like one of those guys where, like, if the rep's not perfect, he doesn't care what Whipple says. He doesn't care what any coach says. He'll make the offense line back up and run the play again himself. If the offensive line blew a blitz, he would tell the receivers, guys, you don't have to go this time. Just O-line and the linebackers blitz again so we can pick up the blitz. Wouldn't need a coach to say it. Wouldn't need, any other player to be like, hey, Kenny, can we run that back? Like, nah, he would line up the offense himself and be like, hey, nah, we're going to run this one back. Sorry, coach, for taking up your time, but we missed this blitz.
Wow.
So just, having that type of leadership and like I said, knowing the type of player that we knew he could be, him coming back was just nothing but excitement for the entire team, offense and defense.
Wow.
Love that. Yeah. Was there a particular moment when the 2021 season felt different? I know we kind of touched on camp, but was there a specific moment, maybe even after the season started, that you and the rest of the team really felt that it was a different year?
Like, you do something special with like the group of guys you had after going, maybe underperforming the last couple of years.
I feel like Tennessee, even though that was pretty early in the season, I feel like when we beat Tennessee and our offense went and performed how they did down there, I felt like that's how we knew it was different. The past couple of years, as you guys know, the offense wasn't the greatest. For the most part, before the 2021 season, it was the Pitt defense, and we're trying to make sure we can stop them from getting the end zone as much as we possibly can because we know the offense might only put up 14 points this game.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth. Our offense wasn't that great. Kenny and Coach Whip, they were, getting through the rough patches and stuff like that. But that was just the way things were. When we went down into Tennessee and we put up 40 points, it was kind of like, whoa, like, okay, we going against SEC competition, out of conference. These are not guys that we see constantly and have a ton of film on.
In
a stadium of 90,000, no less.
Yeah, and we're in a packed house. We go down there and we put up 40 points. That was kind of like the tipping point where it's like, okay, now like our offense is clicking this year. Like, we won't have to worry about, all right, we gotta if we stop them with 3 minutes left, we're not worried like, oh my God, like, can our offense get the ball down the field? Like, we know, all right, no. Kenny and Jordan and that O-line, they're gonna find a way to march the ball down the field.
And I think that even that end of the game, right, where Brennan Hill gets the interception, I remember going nuts. I was going nuts at that game. But the way the offense runs out the clock after, throwing it all over the yard all day is like, not only can we put up points, but at the very end of the game, we can kill clock and sit on it if we need to.
Yep. And again, that was another thing between Kenny and Whit with their communication and just being around each other more and being able to be comfortable and communicate with each other. Their clock management, even Kenny and his own QB sense had better clock management and was able to run down the clock and take his time getting over to Coach Whit because he's going to get the play, but there's no need to rush over there to get the play from him if you're trying to waste 40 seconds. So I feel like overall just guys just being the best that they can be with excellent coaching falling into play too.
All right, awesome. So we already talked about your favorite game, which is UNC. That's a great pick. Mine probably have to be Clemson. That was an awesome game to be in the stands for. Really, the only time I've been to Heinz Field where it's been packed out for the home crowd.
Yeah,
Penn State was more away kids, but I noticed that you didn't say the ACC championship was one among your favorites, and I get that. Like, it wasn't a great game by like your standards, like nail biters, like UCF and UNC. But I just kind of want to talk about that game. Like, how important was that game to the team? Like, finally putting everything together beating Clemson and then not blowing it after we trade punches for the first quarter and then everything settles down.
Yeah. I feel like I think that was definitely like one of my favorite team moments. Because like you said, it was a big, weight lifted off of everybody's shoulders. It was a big finally. Like, the past few years now, Pitt has had great teams. Great teams, great coaches, great individual players. But we can never put it all together. And it was really frustrating because each week we'd be like, bro, like we would see the way that we would lose, and we would see all of the things that we as players and even some of the coaches sometimes, like the things that we missed, like easy misses, things that we would most of the time we would be stepping outside of our norm and messing ourselves up. We would think that we would have to do something special, where if we would have just stick to who we were, we would have turned out a lot better. So I feel like finally getting to that point where everything was clicking. Coaches coached a great full game. Players played a great full game. Everybody was locked in for all 60 minutes. To finally see all that come together.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there. The audio cut out. But essentially, what my next question was during the interview was asking about how was it a vindication after the defense had some struggles this year with the ACC championship being decided by, the Pitt defense after that high-scoring first quarter. Then you have the defensive line start to get to Sam Hartman, and then the secondary really starts to feast after that point.
Yeah, I think that the defense had some struggles throughout this season. I feel like sometimes guys think that like the defense struggled a lot. Our defense actually had a great season last year.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
defense, in terms of like, plus we play more man coverage than any team in the country. We play more. Our base defense is man to man, and 90% of our snaps we're gonna be in some form of our base defense. Very little do our secondary actually have their eyes on the quarterback. So with that being said, being a man to man, it's a tough game. You're gonna get beat a couple times. You're going against guys who got scholarships just like you. So but even with that being said, we went and most of the offenses that we played, even though we had bad games against them, we still held most of our offenses to below their average passing yards throughout the year. Most teams, if you go back and look at their yards per game passing wise, most of the teams we held under their average. It's just that in man coverage, whenever you get beat, it just looks really bad because you don't have any help around you. You're out there on the island, so it looks bad on TV. But when you go back and you look at the stats and you look at what our defense did as a whole, oh no, I don't think we ever had a problem with our defense. I think we just got unfortunate mishaps at certain points of the game. Usually we never really got beat deep all that much, but when we did get beat deep, it was usually a touchdown.
Right, yeah, and I think that's just a product of the Narduzzi defense. I mean, yeah,
Right.
okay. I appreciate how you explain that. I mean, you know better than me. I haven't played football competitively in a couple of years. Okay. Hint. I'm gonna ask the next question.
Okay.
And then you ask the last one about expectations for 2022. Okay. So, unfortunately, we got to talk about the two teams that did happen to beat us deep quite a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Miami and Western Michigan. Of those two, who does Pitt have more beef with coming back onto the schedule next year?
I'm gonna have to go with Miami. Just because of we've lost to them the past few years. Like they're kind of like the team that has our card. We can't beat Miami as of the past few years. It's been a rough time. But also on top of that, a lot of the guys on the team are from South Florida. We have a very large population of guys on the Pitt football team that have been recruited from South Florida. So when we play Miami, a lot of these guys are going to be playing guys that they went to high school with, or playing guys that they played Pop Warner football with. So these guys want to beat them. They want to show them that they left home for a reason. For bigger and better. So it means a little bit more to the guys from Florida on the team, but that the competitiveness that they bring to practice, and the attention and the detail that they bring to practice, because they know that they mess up against the guy that knows all their dirt, they're gonna hear about it. It makes the whole team better. The whole team is focused. Like, all right, now you want to go out there and you want to do this for your brother. You know that this game means something to them. They're playing guys from back home. This is a big game for them. You want to make sure that you can go out there and do the best for your brother. So I definitely think Miami would be the biggest competitor that we're looking forward to playing again this next year.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll just move on to the next question, actually. Unless you have anything you wanted to add, Zach.
No, I mean, I do think I didn't think about this before we started talking to Tony, but I would have thought that Western Michigan definitely would have it would have been more aggravating because they're G5, but I didn't really think about the volume of kids you recruit out of South Florida, which that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel like a lot of people, kind of crap on the non-Power 5 schools, but we respect them all the same. Like every school is going to have some dogs now, so I feel like it's a sour taste in your mouth because that was one of the games that people felt like we should have blew them out. But there's no real I guess personal beef with Western Michigan. Yeah, we got a bad taste in our mouth, and we definitely want to beat them this year. Don't get me wrong about that. But in terms of just the game meaning something to the guys on the team, I'm definitely going to go with Miami just because of how many guys we got on the team that's from South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to disrespect Group of 5 teams here. Cincinnati just went to the playoff. Houston is about to go to New Year's Six Bowl next year. But yeah, that's all I got on that.
Yeah, I mean, Sky Moore, perfect example of somebody who was on that.
Yeah, Pittsburgh guy.
He might end up as a first rounder tomorrow night too. Well, you never know, but probably not likely, but could happen.
Yeah. Someone's. I wouldn't argue against that pick, but there'd be a lot of people calling that pick a reach.
Yeah, but even if he falls out of the first, he's a day 2 pick. So.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, no, that's interesting. I did not even put together the South Florida recruits. But Tony, in terms of your expectations for 2022, how far do you see this team going?
I feel like this team should have a season just as good, if not better, than last year. I feel like losing Kenny Pickett, yes, is a big loss. A big loss in leadership and a great player too. But I feel like both the guys that are there now, especially Nick Patty, that's my guy. That's the guy that I've played with and stuff like that. So I feel like if we can get the best out of those guys, I don't see why we can't go just as far. Because our receiving core is coming back, O-line's coming back, our biggest pieces on the defense all coming back. So I don't see why this team can't be just as great as last year. We have so much offensive firepower, and we have a top 5 defense in the nation, I think. And I don't see why these guys can't really do something great this year.
I'd love to hear that.
Do you see any potential? How do I want to word this? Do you see any potential breakout players this season?
I'm not very sure. I don't know. I feel like all the guys I feel like there's a couple of freshmen that are there, that we might see get in a little bit more than people expect. Um, I'm not going to say any particular names, but I feel like we got some young guys that might step up this year. That might surprise some people. But other than that, I feel like the guys that you guys know, the stars that's coming back, I feel like they're just going to repeat on the things that they've already done. Jordan Addison, he's going to have another great season. Brandon Hill was nominated for the Jim Thorpe at one point last year. I feel like he's going to have another great season. Eric Hallett, he's poised to have another great season, another MVP, MVP type season. So, shoot, the guys, I can keep going on. Marquez Williams, not a lot of people talk about him, but you don't see many 5'9" corners in the ACC, yet alone guys that got the type of stats that he has. I don't think you hear many times announcers saying that Marquez Williams got a ball caught on him. Quarterbacks really just don't throw over to his way, so he's another guy that I think is going to have another great season.
Not only a 5'9" corner, but a 5'9" corner on the outside, right? Not even a
Oh
slot.
yeah. He's not a slot guy. He's not a slot guy. He's an outside corner, and he locks it up. The boy's nice.
I mean, just even Tony didn't even talk about the D line.
I was gonna
Holy
say
shit.
I'm just going into my guys. I'm going into the guys that I was with every single day, But the D line with Kalijah Kancey coming back, like John Morgan's doing great, Haba's coming back. Like this, it's gonna be crazy. Deion Hayes he's been a guy who's been really, really good in practice and got some opportunities in games too. I feel like he's gonna have another good season coming up. So look, man. Like I said, with the amount of players that we have, the depth that we have at all these different positions, as long as we can get great quarterback play out of these guys, I think we're gonna have another great year. Like I said, we could potentially have an even better year than we had last year.
You mentioned him, but I think if I were to answer that question, Deion Hayes would be my pick for a breakout player next year, just because he didn't receive as many reps as like a starter would, but he has the talent to really wreck some shit.
Yeah, Deion Hayes, I feel like he's definitely going to have a great year this year. Like I said, he got in a little bit last year, but he definitely, when he got in, he flashed the talent that he has. So he's definitely the guys to look for.
All right, Tony, it was a pleasure having you on. It was awesome having this conversation. Honestly, I learned a lot of things that I never would have learned today if we didn't have you on. But at this point, we're going to head out. Once again, thanks for coming on. Do you have anything you want to promo before you head off?
No, thanks for having me. Anything I want to promo? Now that I'm not, a D1 athlete anymore, I do play a lot of Call of Duty. For any of those interested, I do stream on Twitch at I'm TMac18. TMac's TMACK 18. I'm TMac18. Twitch, that's my Activision name as well. And then I make some content for TikTok from my Call of Duty clips. Same name as my Twitch. I'm TMac18. So that's pretty much it. All
right, awesome. As always, you can follow me, Zach Kaminsky, at I'm Real Angry on Twitter. You can follow my co-host Kent at Kenton_VW, and make sure to follow the show at Simplify Pod. And if you have any questions you want us to answer, feel free to go ahead and DM the show. We'd love to answer some fan questions on. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, no problem, guys.